I was told that being a night security guard meant long hours of boredom, endless coffee, and the occasional trip. No one warned me about the things you can explain the things that belong in this world. Before I begin, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and drop a like and comment so you don't miss more true horror stories like this one. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because the ending will shock you in a way you won't forget. It was the fall of 2016 when I picked up a night shift at a distribution warehouse just outside the city. The company promised easy money. Stay awake, walk the perimeter a few times, and keep an eye on the monitors. The building itself was massive gray walls, stretching endlessly, with rows of cargo bays lined up like teeth in the dark. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed overhead, but in the far corners, the shadows always seemed thicker than they should have been. At first, everything was routine. I clocked in, did my rounds, and settled into the security office with my thermos of coffee. The monitors flickered with static from time to time, but nothing unusual ever showed. Or so I thought. It was around 2 a.m. when I first noticed something strange. On Camera 6, the Northwest Loading Bay figure appeared. At first, I thought it was one of the workers who had forgotten something. The man wore a reflective vest, head slightly tilted, just standing there. But there was one problem. All employees had clocked out by 10 p.m. The building was empty. I leaned closer to the screen. The figure wasn't moving, just standing unnaturally still, head cocked like a broken doll. My first instinct was to radio the on-site patrol, but then I remembered I was the only one working that night. Grabbing my flashlight, I forced myself to head toward the bay. My boots echoed against the concrete, and every step seemed to amplify the silence of the warehouse. The air grew colder the closer I got, and I could almost swear I heard a faint buzzing, like static, in the back of my head. When I reached the bay doors, the space was empty. No reflective vest, no figure. Just the hum of the lights above me and the sound of my own breathing. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe it had been some kind of glitch on the feed. Back in the office, I checked the cameras again. My stomach dropped. Camera 6 was still showing the man, standing there, perfectly still. And this time, he was facing the camera. His face, if you could even call it that, looked blurred, smudged like a corrupted video file. No features, just a pale oval, but I could feel his gaze, even through the distortion. I froze, unable to move, until the monitor suddenly went black with static. I tried cycling through the feeds, slamming the buttons on the console, but every single camera went to static. And then, just as suddenly, they came back online, all except for camera 6. That one remained dark. The silence in the office felt unbearable. I decided to leave the monitors and finish my round in person. Maybe if I walked the whole building, I'd convince myself everything was normal. As I made my way through the aisles of stacked pallets and crates, I noticed something unsettling. Items had been moved. Pallets that I was sure were tightly wrapped earlier were now shifted. Boxers stacked differently, as though someone had been walking through the aisles, rearranging things in silence. That's when I heard it. A low whistle. Slow, drawn out, coming from somewhere between the rows. I killed my flashlight instantly, pressing my back against the cold steel of a shelving unit. The sound echoed, bouncing in the cavernous space. But it was close, too close. My breath caught in my throat as the whistling stopped. Silence pressed down on me like a weight. Then came the sound of footsteps. Not hurried, not rushed, just deliberate, slow. Each step reverberated, drawing nearer. I knew then I wasn't alone. Summoning every bit of courage I had left, I flicked my flashlight back on and swung it toward the sound. The beam illuminated nothing but endless rows of crates. Empty aisles. No one there. But I swear, for a split second, I saw the reflective strip of a vest glimmer at the edge of the light, before disappearing around the corner. Primera followed. Against my better judgment, I chased that glimmer of reflective light deeper into the warehouse. My boots pounded on the concrete, my flashlight beam cutting wildly through the dark. Every time I turned a corner, the vest seemed just ahead, always vanishing before I reached it. Finally, I turned down one last aisle, and my stomach lurched. The figure was standing at the end of the row, bathed in the sickly glow of a failing overhead bulb, his head tilted again. That blurred, featureless face locked on me. I raised my flashlight, but the beam flickered, sputtered, and died in my hand. The bulb above buzzed violently, flickering like a strobe light, and in each blink of light, the figure was closer. 10 feet, then 5, then right in front of me. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a loose pallet. My heart hammered in my chest, and I screamed out, though the sound seemed swallowed by the massive emptiness of the warehouse. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light stabilized. The aisle was empty. Primera, dasloa, eselon. Shaking, I ran back to the office, locked the door, and refused to look at the monitors again until sunrise. When my shift ended, I reported what happened to my supervisor. He gave me a knowing look, one that said he wasn't surprised. He didn't ask for details. Instead, he simply said, "You're not the first to see him." I used to think ghost stories were just that, stories, until the night I worked security at an old hospital that had been partially shut down for years. Half of the building still functioned, but the upper floors were abandoned, sealed off from the public. My job was to patrol the lower levels, making sure no one snuck into the restricted wings, but everyone on staff knew the truth. No one wanted to patrol upstairs. It was around midnight when my radio crackled with static, followed by a faint voice. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like someone whispering directly into the speaker. My partner, stationed at the other end of the building, didn't respond when I called back. Thinking it was interference, I brushed it off, but the sound left a chill in my chest. Curiositor. Maybe stupidity pulled me toward the stairwell. The door leading to the upper floors had a faded sign taped to it. "Do not enter. Closed for renovation." The metal handle was cold to the touch. Colder than it should have been. When I pushed it open, the hinges screamed, and the smell hit me immediately. Stale air mixed with disinfectant and something faintly metallic, like dried blood. I climbed the steps slowly, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing peeling paint, discarded gurneys, and doors with broken windows. Every sound echoed my own footsteps. The drip of water somewhere in the distance, the faint rattle of air vents that hadn't been maintained in years. When I reached the 3rd floor, I noticed something strange. One of the doors, room 312, was wide open. All the others were sealed shut, chained or boarded, but this one gaped like a wound in the hallway. Inside, the room was empty except for an overturned wheelchair. I stepped closer, shining my light across the cracked tiles. That's when I heard it. "Help me," a whisper so faint I thought I imagined it. My flashlight shook in my hand as I backed out into the hallway. I tried to radio again. Nothing but static. I decided to head back down, but before I could, a loud bang echoed through the hall. The sound came from behind me, from the very room I had just checked. I whipped around. Room 312's door, once open, was now closed. My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't want to open that door again, but something, whether duty or fear, pushed me forward. With a trembling hand, I turned the handle. The room was empty. The wheelchair was upright now, standing neatly in the corner. I stumbled back, nearly dropping my light. Ikanau primera wa SNAT. Imagining things anymore. Something was here, and then I saw it. A figure in hospital gown stood in the far corner of the room, half hidden in shadow. Thin, frail, and tall. Its head hung low, dark hair covering its face. "Help me," the voice whispered again, but this time it was right beside my ear. "Primera." Bolted. My boots pounded against the floor as I sprinted down the hallway. Behind me, I heard the squeal of wheels, like the wheelchair being pushed hard across the tiles. I didn't dare look back. When I reached the stairwell, I slammed the door shut and locked it. I pressed my back against the cold metal, gasping for breath. But the sound didn't stop. The squealing of the wheelchair grew louder, echoing from the other side of the door. moving closer and closer until it stopped. The silence was worse than the noise. I forced myself back downstairs, back into the lit, functioning part of the hospital. My partner finally radioed in, asking where I'd gone. His voice was calm, normal. I wanted to tell him everything, but the words stuck in my throat. Later, during shift change, I asked one of the nurses if the old floors were really empty. She hesitated before answering. They were shut down after the fire, she said quietly. Dozens of patients never made it out. Room 312 was where they found the worst of them. She looked at me then, with something like pity in her eyes. You didn't go up there, did you? I never admitted it to her, but I never went back to that hospital either. I quit the very next week. Still, even now, when I lie awake at night, I sometimes hear it again. That faint, rasping voice whispering in the dark, "Help me." People always ask me why I quit working as a security guard. They think it is because of the long hours, or maybe the low pay. The truth is darker than that. I quit because of one night that still makes me wake up drenched in sweat, convinced I'm not alone. My post was at a corporate office complex on the outskirts of town. It was a modern building, glass walls, polished floors, and an empty underground parking garage that echoed like a cavern. My shift was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and my duties were simple. Patrol the garage, check the lobbies, and keep an eye on the cameras. Easy. Or so I thought. It started as any other night. The cameras showed nothing but empty halls and locked doors. Around 1 a.m., I decided to make my round through the garage. The fluorescent lights flickered constantly down there, buzzing like flies. The air smelled faintly of gasoline and damp concrete. As I walked between rows of parked cars, I noticed something odd. A black sedan parked in the far corner. I didn't recognize it, and it wasn't there during my earlier patrol. My gut tightened. I approached slowly, shining my flashlight through the tinted windows. Nothing. The car was empty. Still, the engine ticked faintly, as if it had just been turned off. That's when I heard it. A click like a car door unlocking. Only I hadn't touched the handle. Primera basket Hawaii. Raising my light again, but the car was silent now. No noise, no movement. I wrote it off as my imagination and continued my patrol. But the further I walked, the more uneasy I became. My footsteps echoed strangely, as if someone else was walking just behind me, perfectly in sync. When I stopped, the echo stopped too. I forced myself to turn around. Nothing but empty concrete and rows of cars. By 3 a.m. I was back in the control room, staring at the monitors. That's when my stomach dropped. Camera 12. The garage feed showed the black sedan again. Only now, the driver's side door was wide open. I hadn't heard it open. I hadn't seen anyone go in or out. Nervously, I switched to the next camera angle. And that's when I froze. Someone was standing behind the car. A tall, thin figure in a dark suit, face obscured by the shadows. He wasn't moving, just standing there. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. The feed flickered, static rolling across the screen. And in that split second of distortion, the figure seemed closer to the camera. I panicked, grabbed my radio, and called for backup. But the line filled with static, like someone breathing directly into the mic. I decided to check it myself, against every instinct screaming in my head. When I reached the garage, the sedan was there, but the door was closed now. No one behind it. The place was silent. I turned in a slow circle, my flashlight beam cutting through the rows, and that's when I saw him. The man. The figure in the suit, standing at the far end of the garage, just outside the reach of my light. I shouted, demanding he identify himself. He didn't move, so I stepped forward, one cautious foot after the other. My flashlight shook in my hand as I raised it toward him, but the closer I got, the more wrong he looked. His posture wasn't natural. His head tilted sharply to one side, like his neck was broken. His arms hung too long, fingertips grazing his thighs, and then he smiled. I swear to you, I couldn't see his face clearly, but I felt it. That smile. Too wide. Too canoeing. The lights above flickered violently, plunging the garage into pulses of light and shadow. And every time the lights came back, he was closer. 10 feet, then 5. By the last flicker, he was right in front of me. My flashlight died in my hand. The next thing I remember, I was waking up in the security office. The monitors glowed, showing the garage completely empty. The sedan was gone. No man in a suit. No evidence of anything. But my boots were still wet with damp footprints. Footprints that weren't mine. I quit the next day. And to this day, whenever I walk alone at night, I swear I hear that faint, deliberate sound of footsteps behind me. Always just one step out of sync. Always following. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Now I want to hear from you, Wood. You last the night in any of these places? Drop a comment down below with your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another chilling story. Because the next one might just keep you awake tonight.